This is a dirt jumper, this is a BMX, and this video is my condensed, hopefully definitive guide to help you choose which one you would prefer. Okay. In an effort to be as clear as possible, think of our two subjects of interest, a BMX and a dirt jumper, on a spectrum. A bike's spectrum. And at the beginning of the spectrum, we have what I will call a tiny park for scooters. And at the other end of the spectrum, we have a Red Bull Rampage. And then I just kind of threw in arbitrarily on this line, a blue trail, like a blue mountain bike trail. And on the spectrum, you'll see that I have placed the BMX and the dirt jumper, and there is quite a bit of overlap. I'll be referring to this spectrum throughout this video. Now, first off, not pertaining to our bike spectrum that I just showed you, I'd like to discuss the fit of these bikes. I know a few people who have glanced at BMXs and quickly discounted the idea of ever trying it purely due to 20-inch wheels. That's like a kid-sized bike. That bike's definitely gonna be too small for me. And actually on that matter, I can flip the script. I have a lot of BMX friends who would look at a dirt jumper and be like, ugh, that big thing, what an annoying thing to even think about throwing around. When in reality, you take my Trails BMX that I have here, my dirt jumper here, put them side by side, stood up pretty straight, and the bars are, well, the bars actually end up kind of at the same spot. And believe it or not, for the 50mm stem that I have on my BMX versus the 35mm stem that I have on my dirt jumper, the effective reach of each of these bikes is within like 10, 15mm. Dirt jumper's a little bit longer, but effectively, and I did do this on purpose, the way these bikes feel as you stand on them, pretty similar for fit. So, since I mentioned wheel sizes, let's discuss the difference in wheel sizes and their effect to our bicycles on our bike's spectrum. The dirt jumper here, obviously between the two, has the larger 26-inch wheels, with the BMX, as I mentioned, using 20-inch wheels. Now, the advantage of those 26-inch wheels is they have a larger diameter and they just monster truck and roll over rough surfaces better than the 20-inch wheels do. So that, of course, pushes the dirt jumper closer to the mountain bike side of our spectrum for bikes. And being able to roll over rougher surfaces quicker is an advantage if you're riding jump trails that get beat up pretty hard or ones that kind of like live in the woods, don't get maintained. Just basically rougher surfaces are a lot nicer to ride on the dirt jumper. Now, the advantage of the BMX's 20-inch wheels. On our spectrum, the BMX is obviously further back, putting us further towards skate park style stuff. Considering for the longest time, skate parks were designed purely around skateboards, the advantage of having a 20-inch wheel is it just fits in better with the quicker, tighter, smaller features that a lot of skate parks kind of have. You could pretty quickly feel a little bit overbiked with a dirt jumper at some of the skate parks that I've gone to, where I'm a lot happier on one of these. Of course, there's all this overlap where concrete parks get bigger and bigger, things get smoother on trails, then you can kind of like choose to use whichever of these you are more interested in, or if you've ridden both, more comfortable on. If your interest lies more towards the mountain bike side of things, dirt jumper. If you like the skate park stuff, a BMX is definitely more fun in a skate park, in my opinion. For what it's worth, here in this ramp, I have no interest in ever touching a 26-inch wheel on this thing. These serve themselves so much better to in here than a dirt jumper does. On the other hand, Mount Edwards on a really dry day, I much prefer not have a 20-inch wheel. I'm a lot happier to have a 26-inch that can just roll over some of the bumps that arrive. Next up, and it's a really similar conversation to wheel sizes, geometry. Head tube angles between a BMX and a dirt jumper are drastically different. My BMX, a Trails BMX, which is actually slack in the BMX world, is a We the People Patrol, and it has a 74.5-degree head tube angle. That is very, very steep. My giant STP, 69 degrees. That is a monumental difference in head tube angles. Again, I probably don't need to reference this. Basically the exact same conversation. The really, really steep head tube angle of a BMX just makes for quicker handling, makes it a little easier in tighter areas. It's nice to have a twitchy bike underneath you when you're trying to do spins and throw the bike around. It just sort of like takes every input you have and outputs exactly what you want. I personally find it a lot easier to learn how to spin and do tricks on a BMX because it is so fast to react to your inputs. And then the slacker head tube angle of a dirt jumper does create a more stable bike, which honestly is a little bit more comfortable and confidence inspiring riding new jumps, new areas, which is something I can really appreciate. It's just, you do have to work a little bit harder with one of these to get any sort of tricks to happen. But the confidence that I gained from the head tube angle and honestly the wheel size of this dirt jumper, I find myself riding things that I would probably never try with this. And then to bring it home, cost for value. For the cost of BMXs, you just get a more like tough quality bike than you ever would with a mountain bike. These things take an absolute beating for what they go through in their entire life, and all the parts from all BMX manufacturers basically play together really easy. You don't have to really worry about compatibility. So the aftermarket world for BMX is very vast and very affordable. Dirt jumpers are definitely more expensive. The cranks can be a little bit annoying. The bottom brackets can be a little bit annoying. There's different like handlebar clamp diameters. There's different actual technical side of like the mountain bike part of dirt jumpers can be a little bit annoying. And because they are mountain bikes and they have expensive bits on them, they're certainly more cost prohibitive than one of these, although way cheaper than say one of these. Okay, hopefully this was concise enough and helpful.